Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of AndrewsFootball.com. Now, welcome to my breakdown of the Tampa 2 defense. Now, if you're new to my channel and you haven't done it already, there's a button right around here. See it, see it, see it? Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Now, this year's Super Bowl is between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. But the main attraction is the high-powered Chiefs offense against the high-powered Tampa 2 defense of the San Francisco 49ers. So what I decided to do was make a video breaking down and explaining the Tampa 2 defense. I'm going to explain why Tampa Bay runs it. I'm going to explain how it works. Then for fun, I'm going to get on the whiteboard and I'm going to break it down for you. Now, why does the San Francisco 49ers run the Tampa 2 defense? Well, it actually goes back to the 1970s with the Steel Curtain. In the 1970s, when the Steel Curtain was around, they had one of their defensive backs, a player by the name of Tony Dungy. Well, when his playing career ended, he became a defensive backs coach here in Kansas City. Then he became a defensive coordinator, and eventually he became the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where basically he looked at his defense that he ran in Pittsburgh, the Steel Curtain, arguably the greatest defense of all time. And he said, why don't I run that same defense as a coach? And it was called the Tampa 2 defense, but it's basically the same defense that he was a part of and won Super Bowls with in the 70s as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Well, one of his players is a guy by the name of John Lynch, and he was part of that 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that won a Super Bowl. And when his playing career ended, he did a variety of things. But in 2017, he became general manager of the San Francisco 49ers, and he did the same exact thing Tony Dungy did. He looked at his career and said, hey, I won a Super Bowl playing under this defensive system. Now that I'm general manager of the 49ers, I'm going to bring this same defensive system to San Francisco. Bottom line, the Tampa 2 defense is a tried and true system. Both the Steelers of the 70s and the 2002 Buccaneers are universally considered two of the greatest defenses of all time. So the Tampa 2 defense is a tried and true system that's worked in the past, and teams have won Super Bowls running it. Now, why does it work? Well, first of all, by NFL standards, it's extremely simplistic and it's very easy to implement. You can bring in free agents to this defense and you can install and get them up to speed very quickly. It's also easier for rookies to go ahead and learn this defense. There's several defenses that are in the NFL that a lot of players will tell you it takes a year and a half to 2 years to learn. For example, Romeo Crennel's 3-4 defense. Nobody will tell you, oh, I just picked this up in a couple months. Almost everybody will tell you it takes anywhere from a year and a half to 2 years before you get comfortable with the system. Not true with the Tampa 2. As a matter of fact, the San Francisco 49ers have two rookie starters that are really key parts of this Tampa 2 defense because of its simplistic nature. Rookies and other free agents are able to go ahead and learn this defense, pick up, and at week 1 of the NFL season, they're up to speed on it. There's a lot of turnover in the NFL. Case in point, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Only one starter from the 2019 defense that beat Tennessee in the AFC Championship game started just 2 years ago against Tennessee in the AFC divisional round. Only one. So there's lots of turnover in the NFL. So having a system that's easy to install and easy to implement is very important. Another thing about the Tampa 2 defense, it's salary cap friendly. Like I said, two starters from the San Francisco 49ers are rookies. It's cheaper to pay a rookie than it is a veteran. So now, am I recommending you have a team full of rookies? Absolutely not. But bottom line, when you have a simplistic defense, it's easier to be a little frugal in the free agent market. And not only that, when you're able to have a rookie come in and have a huge impact like San Francisco did, you don't have to pay them as much as you do a veteran. Another thing is that due to the nature of the Tampa 2 defense being a zone defense, you don't have to pay expensive cut man corners. Now, I'm going to break down the zone defense of the Tampa 2 here in a minute, but cover corners, man-on-man cover corners are very expensive. The top man corners make over $15 million a year. Richard Sherman is the most expensive defensive back on the San Francisco 49ers, and he makes slightly over $9 million a year. Keep in mind, if you want to play man corner you want to play a man-on-man defense, you need more than one man-on-man corner, and the best ones of the bunch make over $15 million a year. So basically, the positives of the Tampa 2 defense is that it's a tried and true system. It's easy to implement, and it's very salary cap friendly. So now let's go take a look at the whiteboard here, and let's break this down into some more detail for you. Welcome to the whiteboard, and now I'm going to break down the Tampa 2 defense. The simplest and best way to explain the Tampa 2 defense is that their front four beats your front five, and then it's basically 7 defensive backs against 5 receivers. Now, the thing is, the reason why most teams don't run an exclusive Tampa 2 defense, it's big risk, big reward, boom or bust. When John Lynch first took over in 2017 and he implemented the Tampa 2 defense, it wasn't very good. They only got 30 sacks and were 25th in the league in scoring. In 2018, they had 37 sacks but went down in scoring because they were the 28th ranked scoring defense. Now, it took him 3 years to get a good defense because this year they were tied for fourth in the league in sacks with 48 sacks, 8th in points, 2nd in yards, but they had to do a lot to get there. First thing they had to do is trade for D Ford and give him $90 million. Then they used the 2nd overall pick to get Nick Bosa. All 4 of the starting defensive linemen for the San Francisco 49ers are former first-round picks. And you also have the 2017 number 3 overall pick, Solomon Thomas, as a defensive lineman. John Lynch has been the general manager 3 years. Twice he's had the number 2 pick in the draft, and both times, what did he do? Draft a defensive lineman for the Tampa 2 defense. Because bottom line, if you don't have a front 4 that can beat the front 5, you're going to have a terrible defense. So that's the reason why a lot of teams don't exclusively run a Tampa 2 defense, because if you don't have a great defensive line, you're going to have a terrible defense. And not all teams can invest the draft capital and money into their defensive line. And keep in mind, it took San Francisco 3 years to do it. So first thing is about the Tampa 2 defense is that it's called Tampa 2, and a lot of teams equate it to cover 2. Now, for those of you that don't know, cover 2 defense basically means that you have your 2 deep safeties that line up 12 to 15 yards from the line of scrimmage that go ahead and take the deep half. Each safety, as you will see, will just take the deep half of the field, and that's basically a cover 2 defense. Now, cover 3 defense means that you'll have a 3rd defensive back that will go ahead and take the middle of the field. Well, in the Tampa 2 defense, your middle linebacker, who's usually 5 to 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, will go ahead and on pass situation, he goes ahead and he drops into this middle 3rd. So even though it's called Tampa 2, it's really kind of a variation of a cover 3 defense. As you see here, your middle linebacker will go ahead and take the deep 3rd here of the field, and then each safety will go ahead and take away anything deep on either side of the ball. Because the Tampa 2 defense wants to ensure that nothing gets back behind them. Don't get beat deep. Now, the next part of the Tampa 2 defense is that you have your corners, and I'm giving you kind of a base defense. There's so many intricacies and variations of this. I could sit here and talk for hours, but your corner, as a general rule of thumb, if they're inside the numbers, they're going to try to take away the inside. If they're outside the numbers, they're going to take away the outside. As a general rule of thumb, they usually play bump man press, bump man zone. And I know that's going to sound a little confusing. And there's also, again, variations where the corners can play about 10 yards back, but I'm giving you just the bare basics here. But as a general rule of thumb, what you want to do if you're in a corner in the Tampa 2 defense is you want to disrupt anything that's timing or rhythm oriented, because a good defensive line will get to the quarterback in about 3 seconds. So the last thing you want to do in a Tampa 2 defense is allow your quarterback to go 1, 2, 3, release, and have your wide receiver wide open. So you want to interrupt the route right here. And then what you do if you're a corner in base Tampa 2 defense is you jam the wide receiver at the line of scrimmage, then you back off into a zone, and I'm going to say it's basically just a 5-yard zone. Every defense is slightly different. Every formation's a little different. But as a general rule of thumb, you're basically in a 5-yard zone. Now this basically will take away anything that's short. So a quick flat route by the tight end will be covered by the corner. You want to run a bubble screen or an end around? Corners are right there for you. This running back sneaks out into the flat, corners right there to blow it up. Okay? Now your outside linebacker, and then keep in mind, I have the outside linebacker on the tight end. You may want to put the corner over here, the outside linebacker on the wide receiver. But in this particular formation, the slot wide receiver is going to be covered by the slot corner. The tight end is going to be covered by the outside linebacker. And keep in mind, there's so many variations, but I literally can talk for hours about the Tampa 2 defense. So in order to keep this relatively short, I'm just giving you kind of a base formation, base defense. Basically what you have here in your slot corner and your outside linebacker is that they're going to play in a zone. Just as your corners went ahead and played bump and disrupted anything short of the wide receivers, both your outside linebacker and your slot corner are going to drop into a respective zone. Now, it's a larger area. As you can see here, it's a larger area than what the corner has. And again, different schemes will show different variations. Sometimes the slot corner will back directly towards the corner, try to take away the out routes. Sometimes it'll be more towards the middle of the field. It's all a little variable. But basically what they're going to do is take away a zone of 7 to 15 yards. All right? So anytime the corner is going to stay in this 5-yard zone, they'll interrupt the receiver. So when the receiver goes up, runs to run a post, they'll be right in that zone right there. If they want to run an out, they'll be right in that zone right there. So basically the way this works is that you're trying to take away everything from 15 yards in. The reason why is that this front four is athletic and good enough that within under 3 seconds, this front four will get to the quarterback. So all you got to do is contain all the holes that you see for those 3 seconds. All right, so what did I say? I said I was going to talk about some of the ways that you can go ahead and beat the Tampa 2 defense. There is some weaknesses on this defense, and it's actually, believe it or not, it's actually by design. Okay? Because bottom line, this defense, when run properly, is extremely effective against the run, as you've seen in San Francisco's last 2 playoff games, averaging only 41.5 yards rushing per game. But there is some weaknesses of the Tampa 2 defense. Number one weakness of the Tampa 2 defense, usually it puts an emphasis on speed over size. So usually Tampa 2 defenses are, as a general rule of thumb, usually smaller. Now, however, Preston Buckner and Eric Armstead are freaks of nature. They're over 300 pounds and they can move. So they're not really a smaller defensive front, but as a general rule of thumb, Tampa 2 defenses are usually smaller and more subjective to a power running game like the Tennessee Titans have, for example. But there's also a few other things that they really struggle against. Creative coaches, athletic tight ends, and as you see here, there's a hole here, there's a hole here, and this zone is wide open. Athletic tight ends can get and sit in the zone here, here, and basically here. You can dink and dunk against a Tampa 2 defense because ultimately the middle linebacker is responsible for the deep third right here. But one disadvantage is that he can catch the ball. Unlike a man defense where the corner will have his back towards the quarterback, they're all looking right ahead. So basically it's not going to allow you the opportunity to catch the ball for a big game because you'll have multiple players converging in on you. But is this a spot that you can hit? Absolutely. Now keep in mind, because these safeties here are going 12 to 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, and they're retreating back into the deep thirds to go ahead and take away the long ball. If you can get behind the zone of about 15 yards, you're going to have an available section right around here that's wide open. Basically anywhere between 15 and 18 yards is always going to be available in Tampa 2 system. Now, most quarterbacks in under 3 seconds have a hard time, because this on paper looks really easy, but you have 4 highly fast individuals coming at you, and you have to make sure that you throw over either a corner or an outside linebacker and still have the ball go 15 yards in a very tight area right here, because you are throwing over a defensive back, and you have to make sure that deep safety can't get to it. So that's a weakness of the Tampa 2 defense. However, if run properly, this front four will get to the quarterback before the wide receiver can break the coverage of the corner, because he's going to have to operate with the jam and get to this section. Now, if you have a very fast tight end, can he go ahead and get there? He can, but that's extremely rare. More than likely, what you're going to see is a tight end trying to sit in the middle of the field, and then that's where you have a little bit of a chess match. You have either the outside linebacker or the corner play aggressive man coverage and try not to allow them through, or you even try to get more creative and try a bracket. And I could go into all these details more or less, but bottom line, the thing to watch out for in the Super Bowl is this section right here. Basically somewhere between 5 and 8 yards beyond the line of scrimmage towards the center of the field, this will be open on occasion. Now, very rarely you may see one of these guys drop back and try to cover that zone. That has been known to happen, but it's not often that it does. But bottom line, Kelsey could be a big weapon right here. These 15 to 18 yard out routes and flag routes are also going to be available for Patrick Mahomes. These are things that you can watch for on the Super Bowl. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.